Namaste. Welcome to the Shaman and the Mermaid. We're back. We keep coming back, and this is the Pisces new moon that we're bringing to you. It's on Saturday, March 13th, and we're going through March 28th for the Libra full moon. And this is a lot of Pisces energy. Pretty exciting. Anybody here a Pisces?
Yeah, he's saying that because I'm a Pisces and I fall into this time frame this next 2 weeks for my solar return myself. I'm right on the cusp of the spring equinox. But there's a lot of energy in Pisces besides my birthday. So on this new moon, there's, of course, the sun and the moon in the sign of Pisces, but also Venus and Neptune are in Pisces. And one day after the new moon, or actually 2 days after, Mercury will also be in Pisces. So a little party in Pisces to kick off this report. And first, I think we should explain a little bit more about what Piscean energy is. You want to break that down for them since it has such a strong influence, and I am biased.
So you're letting the Virgo describe the Pisces?
Yeah, let the Virgo describe the Pisces.
Well, in astrology, all of the signs, whether it's Pisces, Virgo, Aries, Libra, they're all neutral, meaning they're not bad, good, and they express a particular type of energy. If we use storytelling or psychology, we call it archetypes. So it's a particular archetype. Pisces is a collection of energies, and Pisces is the one that's the collection of all energy. Positive or harmonious Pisces energy is unification, oneness, being together. Katrina likes the word one love, a little Bob Marley. And it's being in the unified field, if we use the Einstein phrase. Sometimes it will be described as the energy place where you are before you're born and after you die. And it contains one's spiritual journey, your spiritual acumen, dreams, imagination. On the unbalanced side of Pisces, it can also include the opposite of being unified and together, which is isolation, alone, separated, divided out. It can also illuminate where we have addictions or illusions, delusions, meaning where we're trying to avoid the unified truth and we'll do anything to avoid that. And Pisces and Aries, which are big players in this report, both have to do with the immune system, and both have to do with viruses, and both have to do with how Mother Nature and our bodies work with those. Is that good?
That was good, yes, because I don't really showcase the negative side of Pisces too much, so it's important to get the full picture of it. So all of that, as he said, all the signs have a neutral energy, and if you were to describe Pisces in its neutral state, bringing out both of its capacities to that delusional isolation side, to the spiritual collective oneness side, I would say that its balanced place, holding that, is that it sees the whole big picture. It's all the oneness, as he also said. I'm going to use a little illustration of the flower of life to kind of hold it in visual form. That Pisces will, when in balance, will see the flower of life as every point on this, including the space between, is all part of the collective picture. And when it's out of balance, it will see itself in isolation as one point or one line in the picture. And you can't escape any bit of the whole just because you're trying to hide out over here. You don't want to be in this area, so you're going to go claim your little space in this part of it. It's like a spider's web. If you plunk it over here, the vibration is going to trickle down to be felt all the way through the web. And so Pisces recognizes that it's all connected and interwoven together. And it's the last sign in the astrological wheel. You start out in Aries, which we're about to enter in a few days on that spring equinox. The sun will move into the sign of Aries. And that's where that real pinpointed, it's me, one point on that picture of the flower of life, I'm this spot. It kind of begins its journey there, and then it goes all the way around the wheel to where we are now in the tail end of Pisces, and it's saying, no, actually, I'm not just this one point on the picture, I'm the whole big picture. And all of my actions, all of my thoughts, all of my words are going to have that vibratory effect in the whole field, and that I really can't escape any one part of this field, that instead I need to embrace that I'm everything and everyone at the same time as I am the individual self. And that's a really complex concept to hold in our mind. And it's really the effort of walking this earth walk with our ego and our physical form and our individuality, at the same time holding our spiritual being in our awareness and realizing that we are not separated from the earth, we're not separated from each other, we're not separated from anything in the whole, galactic cosmos of things. And that's a real duality, seemingly, to hold in our awareness and even work with or navigate in our life. And that's really the prowess of the Piscean energy, is to be able to hold that in check. And that is so hard to balance. And so that whole journey around the wheel is trying to take us there. And then when we get here at the Piscean new moon, we say to ourselves, do I need to take another lap around the wheel? And what on this spiraling ascension around the wheel do I want to take with me this time? It's kind of a check-in mode of where you're at in your life. Do you see yourself as the whole, the one, that you're not separate, that you, the isolation technique you might be working with is not going to work? Are you realizing that? And one word that fits Pisces is they realize. With their real eyes, they can see the whole big picture. Are you realizing the reality of things? And then, if not, what do you need to add into your next journey around the sun to help you bring that back into practice? So it's a good check-in point as you begin coming towards that entry into the Aries energy of rebirth. We'll come into spring on this report, and in the next report we come into Easter, which is very symbolic of rebirth too. We're at the spring season itself here in the northern hemisphere, where we're going to see all the little crocus and tulips and hyacinth and the budding leaves on the trees coming through. It's that rebirth again time. So this new moon is a seed moon for us to check in before we take that next lap around. What is it that I need to bring on my journey with me, or help me on my journey to come into that realization that I am actually interconnected with all beings, including our beautiful Earth. She's a being too. So that leads to the theme of this report, which is no matter where you go, there you are. And that on that wheel, I'm going to grab it again for visual, no matter where you try to go on this, whole big picture of life, that is still you. And so you can't escape, which is one of the words of Pisces that didn't get included in his list. Shadow side of Piscean energy tries to escape or avoidance of some of that reality check that is so important. They like to live a little bit in la la land, like la 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 la, don't tell me, I don't want to see, I don't want to hear, I just want to float in the abyss of the oneness. And so we try to escape sometimes in that way, and hence the addictions. We'll load up on the drugs and the alcohol or the food or the sex or the movies or the binging or the shopping to avoid and escape the reality of the situation. But this is the reality. We're all connected, and there's no one part that you can escape to and hide from and avoid being a part of the whole. There's no extra pieces to the puzzle, and everybody plugs into the situation. And I think that's an important piece to remember during this whole unpacking of the next 2 weeks of this report, is that there's no hiding place that we can go to. So what does it mean? No matter where you go, there you are. How do you then work with that? And to me, the best way to realize that your impact is critical in the whole spectrum of life is to be your very best human self that you can. Be your very best in your emotional maturity, in your physical health and wellness, in your mental stability, in your spiritual acumen. Try to be your very personal best. And then no matter where you go, there you are. It doesn't matter, because it's the very best version of yourself. And I think that this new moon is a good time to set that intention for doing your personal best, being your personal best, and finding out what it takes as you journey around again on that astrological wheel, what you need on the pathway going forth. What else do you have to say about new moon in Pisces?
I'll talk about the Neptune piece, because Neptune's hanging out pretty close with Venus. Neptune and Venus will be conjunct right next to the Sun and the Moon. They're all kind of lined up for this event on March 13th. And Neptune spends 14 years in a sign. It went into Pisces in 2011, and the day that it went into Pisces was the Fukushima disaster in Japan, where the nuclear power plant melted down after an earthquake and a tidal wave. That's total Neptunian energy. And Neptune will be in Pisces all the way through 2025. So it's halfway, a little more than halfway through its journey. But one of the lessons that Neptune in Pisces teaches is that everything is connected, and we can't separate and isolate out for long. We can temporarily lock things down or separate out or isolate or try to move away, but everything in Mother Nature is connected. And I'll just use the Fukushima example. It was a disaster that happened to Japan, but not so long after, all of the first jetsam and flotsam from the earthquake that got shaken off Japan came ashore to California, and then after that the radioactive wave came over through the ocean, and now it's in the fish, and now it's in our food, and now it's circumnavigating the whole globe. You can't separate out. And so one of the lessons of Neptune in Pisces with this new moon is isolation, separation, escapism, martyrdom, keeping others at bay isn't a good long-term solution, including Mother Nature. We have to integrate and heal.
And one of the difficult things to get that concept across, that you can't isolate, is that sometimes it seems like we can isolate. We can separate out for maybe a couple centuries even in our borders, in our countries, in our politics. And it seems like this works because 200 years it's in our human experience seems like a very long time. But in the Earth's perspective, from the universal perspective, 200 years is a blink in time. And that maybe it worked for those 2 centuries or so to be separated out, but eventually it's going to come back, circle back around, and have some kind of connection in. So it's a seemingly short-term solution to avoid the obvious long-term problem. Won't suffice. And we're really good, human beings are really good at trying to take the shortcut to the solution, and it's not going to work when you leave out the critical piece that everything is connected. So, for example, the Earth is not well. She's ailing, and it shows up in all kinds of ways. We're poisoning her soil. Our air is toxic to breathe. Our water is undrinkable. And we have these short-term solutions, like one city will clean out their pipes. Here in Denver, we just changed all our lead pipes out to copper in our neighborhood, and so now we can drink our water. But that did not really address the bigger picture of we are poisoning our water. And same, like some states and some counties will make fracking illegal. So then we can't bury the toxic energy into the earth from the oil derricks or the gas. And so that part of Mother Earth, that county or that city's government has their soil / water aquifers covered. But all that water and all that soil is interconnected to all the water and all the soil in all the world. And so therefore, eventually it's going to lead us to a poisonous situation in the long haul. So we have to really take a stand on taking care of everything on the bigger global picture rather than just isolating out these little bits. And sure, tackle what you can in your neck of the woods. We can't, one person has a hard time taking on a whole globe. I understand that. So, if you can start with your neighborhood and then work into your city and then work into your county, etc., then that's the way to go on that. But sometimes I think we feel satisfied to just have our little neck of the woods taken care of, and that, it's too bad for everybody else. We hope they figure it out. That's not going to work. It seems benevolent to do your little bit in your part, but it has to keep mushrooming out to everybody else in order for the good of the whole to be taken care of. And if one of us is sick, if one of us has that dis-ease on any level, all of us have it to some effect. It's that spiderweb vibration all the way through. And so avoiding or I don't know about those people in that part of the world or their suffering or their troubles or their trauma, it's not my problem, I have my own stuff to deal with, is not a solution anymore. And that we have to look from a bigger heart picture on how we can better take care of everybody. And again, I feel like no matter where you go, there you are in the heart of it. Even if you're in your pristine water tank, you're still feeling the vibration from those who don't have that pristine water tank coming to them. So be your very personal best of the place that you stand in. And by bringing yourself into whole and well and to your Shiva consciousness or Christ consciousness, crystal consciousness, however you want to term it, the highest version of yourself, then you can step into the next place and help the next person along. And we all keep mushrooming out in that sense, helping each other each rise to their highest version of who they are. That is so Piscean in concept and so the bigger picture of things. And that's, I guess, what we're trying to say on this new moon is to see the big picture of how we all fit together. And then how as the individual, as you're going to come into that new Aries energy here in a few days, how can you take an individual stance towards that? And it's to make yourself the best version of who you are for the good of the whole. So all of that, Pisces new moon on March 13th. And then on the 2 days later, on the Ides of March, is Mercury moving into Pisces. So then that brings the party to its full house on that day. Mercury in Pisces, what does that look like?
Pisces is that journey into the spiritual world or into the soul, and Mercury is communication or information. And this is an opportunity, while Mercury is in Pisces, to do some soul work, to continue going in and having a look, as opposed to being the escapist or avoidance. The shadow side of this would be Mercury's technology, and it would be going to your phone, social media, shopping, and avoiding, or going to Netflix, whatever, and avoiding doing some look at yourself. It could be positive, like you could be avoiding doing something creative. Pisces is the creative expression, imagination piece, and you're using Mercury in a way to avoid it. It's also perfect with the quote for our theme, which is no matter where you go, there you are. How many people in your life have tried to move to a different city, get a new boyfriend, change the color of your clothes, and you'll think that will change your situation. Then you wind up the different city, same scenario. New boyfriend, same scenario. Different clothes color, same scenario. And meaning, if you change the outer world, the inner world stays the same. So if you're discontent with where you live, who you're dating, what you look like, you'll be discontent whether you move and change things or not. And so, no matter where you go, there you are. Mercury in Pisces is an opportunity to do the inner work and inner change, and then you'll see it reflected back to you in the outer world.
Awesome. I like how you pulled the theme into that one, because that's exactly right. It's really a beautiful time, Mercury in Pisces, to do that inner work. And that's March 15th. That's the midpoint. And that is actually about, I think, an exact year to date for at least us, for the coronavirus making the isolation piece happen at for most people around the country. But it was the day we closed at Karma Yoga Center for the quarantine and lockdown, and that was definitely the kickoff of some big isolation pieces that have moved in the last year, that this Piscean new moon really needs to begin to unravel and undo, as a way to remember that isolation is not the way for us as human beings, that we need each other and that we're all connected. So I hope this is an anniversary that marks a rebirth of returning back to the oneness instead of the isolation.
Speaking of rebirth,
yes, go for it.
Sun goes into Aries on March 20th, which is the start of spring equinox, equal day, equal night. And Aries is right after the sign of Pisces. They lead into each other, and so Pisces represents rebirth, resurrection, return. It's the springtime when the buds are coming out, the crocus are rising, the little bunnies and little other creatures are coming out of their homes, and it's the expression of self. So this is coming right with that energy of Pisces, which is go into the collective, reintegrate, and then the Aries is birth something, bring something out, bring something new.
So with that Mercury moving into Pisces, it gives an opportunity for that creative exploration of what it is to rebirth and bring forth as Sun moves into Aries. And then that begins the whole Aries month of birthdays. So happy birthday to all the Aries people beginning that March 20th. And happy spring to everybody as well. It'll be nice to step into some new energy that Mother Earth will be bringing forth to us. And then Sunday, March 21st, there's a few aspects to talk about. Venus will join the Sun in Aries as a starting piece for that. And what does that feel like to you, Venus in Aries?
In traditional astrology, it's where Venus feels least comfortable. Aries is the home sign of Mars and the masculine and engagement energy. It's outward. Think of spring maybe more so than going to thinking of the man or the masculine. Spring is things arise, they come out, they bud, they project out in birthing process. That's all Aries. But Venus, she's more passive energy, receiving, pulling in, magnetism, and Aries is out. So there can be a little tension here. And Venus herself relates to how much you care and love for yourself, what your values are, what things in the material world are in your possession or around you. But it's not necessarily bad for Venus to be there. This can be a time where you get a lot of stuff done around that. There's a lot of projects coming to completion, or you're starting new things.
I think, especially with Sun, wherever the Sun is, it's activating that sign. So Sun moving into Aries, it's like Aries gets to have the spotlight on it for the next 27 and a half days or 30 days that the Sun's in the sign. And so it's like Aries, 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 and then Venus moves into Aries, and it kind of balances little Aries out a little bit, or the Sun out a little bit, so that there's some moderation to all that explosion to it. And The Sun and Venus are friendly to each other. They are much like a brother-sister team, and some even think that if the Sun were to ever go out, Venus would hold the light for us in the Sun's steed, that they are complements to each other in that yin-yang kind of way. So even though Venus might not really dig being in the sign of Aries, it's good for her to be in the sign of Aries because it helps balance all of that. What the Potawatomi Native Americans say for the word of emergence is pupawi, and I just love that word, so I had to bring it in to say it. Pupawi, because it sounds like what spring does. Pupawi. It's going to come out, and so Venus will help kind of, soften if there's too much pupawi happening.
That's good.
On that same day, March 21st, the half moon in Cancer. Cancer is the emotional, watery sign of home, and the half moon represents that balance. So on that day, there will be a sense of balanced emotions. So very appropriate with Venus moving into Aries. Those two are kind of balancing the emotions as well. And then to top it off, there's this really lovely trine between Mars, that's in Taurus, and Saturn, that's in Aquarius. And this is
Mars and Gemini.
Mars and Gemini, and Saturn in Aquarius, yes. And what do you think of that trine?
I think this is very supportive of taking action and getting things done and putting things into motion or completion. Mars, like the Aries energy, likes to go out and take action, and Mars is very energetic in Gemini. Gemini is about what's this, what's that, curiosity, adaptability, and Saturn, who's usually the rule keeper and setting boundaries, is giving permission to Mars. It's like, okay, let's explore this. And they're both in signs of exploration. Saturn is in Aquarius, which is exploring high ideals and innovative things and star-like information, and Mars is curious and looking at it very close. And so it's both getting the 30,000-foot view and the microscope view on the thing, and it's like, looks like both are good, let's go forward.
It's a really nice time for people who like structure but are dying to be a little bit spontaneous. That March 21st would be a really good day for you to try some of that going out on a limb thing. If you like to have structure and boundaries but want to be adventurous, good day for that. March 21st. And then March 23rd, Mercury squares Mars. Well, whenever you have a square, you know that there's a challenging dynamic involved, and this is the communicator, Mercury, and Mars, as we said, is kind of that warrior, aggressive initiator taking charge of things. And so after this day of I'm going to be spontaneous and adventurous with some structure and boundaries, then the next day is the potential for there to be some challenge around communication of that. So I would say just mind the importance of communication and the importance of your words, and remember that Mercury and Pisces can use a lot of fluff and delusional speak and avoidance and sugarcoat things so it looks a lot shinier or a lot less damaging than it really is, and Mars is going to call it out. That would be what I potentially see as that challenge, especially Mars and Gemini. It's got all the information, it's been researching, it's got that curiosity piece, so it's got all of its backup, like, oh yeah, well here's some proof and here's some proof. So just be true to what you know is truth, speak truth, and probably some of that potential dissonance with Mars square Mercury on that day could easily be avoided, but it's potentially there. So best day to speak the truth. That's March 23rd. Do you have anything on that one? And then March 25th, Sun conjunct Venus. And I kind of spoke to that a little bit earlier. Maybe bring in your piece to that one.
I like this one.
Yeah.
Venus, she's one of the interior planets, meaning she's closer to the sun than the Earth. And from our perspective in the sky, it looks like Venus tick-tocks to the left and the right of the sun. And another way to put that the ancients put at it, is Venus for a while will be the morning star. She'll be in the east every morning for 584 days before sunrise, and then she'll disappear, which she's doing right now, and reappear in the west, and she'll be in the west, it's over my shoulder from where we're sitting, for 585 days, and at night, after the sun has set, we'll see Venus, the evening star. Well, she disappeared on February 13th, and she's in the underworld right now, and March 25th is the midpoint where Venus is behind the sun. And like Katrina said, if the sun was to go out, Venus's spiritual light would shine through. Well, Venus is shining through the sun. And Venus is love and spirituality and beauty and connection and nurturing and community. And it's shining through the sun, which is the big empowerer, the doer, the making things happen. And so this is sweet as she's right in the middle of her cycle.
Yeah, I like when you remind us that when something is conjunct the sun, it enhances it and makes it bigger. And so the whole Piscean new moon, this whole report is all about remembering that we are interconnected and that really that oneness or one love is the answer to all the problems. And then so that Sun-Venus conjunction is kind of at the end of this bringing through the remember, just love, everybody, just love. And back to the flower of life, sacred geometry, an interesting piece about Venus is, as Michael was explaining, how she makes these Venus star points and kind of remember spirographs, and each time it keeps making that. Basically, she makes the flower of life in the night sky. In her, if you were to track her pattern, it makes
her and the Earth. It's called the Venus Earth flower. They dance around each other over 8 years, and each time Venus shifts and goes from east to west, it makes a new star point, and it makes a 5-pointed star, which is related to the flower of life. It's the Fibonacci sequence, the pattern of growth and expansion.
And if you're familiar with the yantras of the chakras, the crown chakra is the pattern that she makes, the 1,000-petaled lotus flower pattern. So then that's the last of the aspects for this 2-week report. The final one is, of course, where we pick up next time, the Libra full moon on March 28th. And we'll tell you more about the Libra full moon when we get there. In the meantime, have a wonderful awakening at the spring equinox and rebirth and renewal. And remember, no matter where you go, there you are. So be the best version of yourself that you can be. Namaste.
Namaste.